Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Followers, likes, double tap. Now they control your life.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the 817 podcast. I'm Jimmy here with my co-host EJ. How are you doing this week?
Doing good, man. It's Wednesday, so
Thursday.
See, we don't even know what time it is. This is the earliest I think we've ever recorded.
Yeah.
7 a.m. You know, we're recording early. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. I did go to Dallas yesterday. I can't make this up, Jimmy. I go to Dallas to see a friend perform at the Performing Arts, and Dallas is Dallas a ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's hot outside, and we're wearing shirts and shorts, and we just go find a bar, right? We just go find a bar on a Wednesday night. Slow, nobody. It was a bar, and the bouncer said, "Sorry, we can't let you in. You don't have pants on." If that's not the most Dallas thing I said, it's Wednesday. I was like, I got to get my ass back to Fort Worth. I ain't got time for this. Left.
You should have, it would have been funny if you had some like zip-on pants and you zipped them back on. Like, oh, this is what Dallas is about. Zip on and zip off jeans.
Is this fancy enough for you?
Yeah.
Got these from Lulu.
Well, we're going to start this week by talking about a few teen development stories that we have noticed. The first one, the Star-Telegram has dedicated 2 Sunday front pages in a row to teen gun violence and teen shootings. The first one last week, 101 dead since 2016 due to gun violence. This past one, we had another shooting. Tarrant County has a new problem with gangs. First off, this isn't a new problem.
Yeah.
Like, just because you don't acknowledge that this has existed doesn't mean it's not a new problem. You know, we had Bob Supreme on here to talk about his documentary Murder Worth, which is on YouTube, I believe. Go take a look at it if you actually want to learn about some of the history of gang violence in Fort Worth. But there were also a couple other stories that came up around it. One of them being that Fort Worth City Council member Chris Nettles is working on a new gun violence outreach program in Fort Worth schools, especially in District 9, which has had, or District 8, which has had 8 homicides in 2022, whereas a majority of other districts have had 3. So, trying before summer to get a message out to teens before they have all the time in the world on their hands. But, you know, what was your thoughts about Star-Telegram taking up so much time dedicated to this and some of the programs around it?
Yeah. Well, you have to look at that, you know, journalism, crime news is the easiest news because it, you know, you get the police kind of talking on the whatever they talk on, and then like, oh, we have this, and then they got to do a report. So then there's a police report. So it's, as busy journalists,
it's an easy lead.
It's an easy lead. And so the challenge with that, when you have an underserviced staff, so then you have a lot of this, a lot of your readers read about crime all the time. And that's a hot topic when you look at Spotify, when you look at podcasts. Crime podcasts is the lead, and it's not even close.
True crime.
Yeah, true crime, you know. And so we have craved, I feel like, this human fear of the world's coming after our homes, our world is coming after our kids. The world outside is bad. And a lot of marketing and capitalism and, you know, easy journalism has allowed us to get to that place. I mean, some people's houses are like, if this was like a I don't know, like you lived in a mansion. I mean, there's people with like all these Amazon cameras now. You can watch it from your phone. You can talk off the mic, and everybody's like hecka proud of their like security system. And so there's this massive just market of show fear, and that for some reason, your specific house and your specific space is that important where someone's going to come into your place. So I say all of that and to say is that like, we on the podcast try to not, acknowledge the fear and all the stuff, especially people who live on the east side, who live in the area. And I've never felt, I feel never worried or that there's something I need to worry about. So I think that's something that I think like is why we never talk about this. But from the youth perspective, there was also data around Tarrant County 2 and Through partnership receiving $2 million donation to help high school students earn associate degrees and other credentials. And so Fort Worth area nearly has 1 million jobs that pay above the living wage or of more than $18 an hour, and most of them do not require a bachelor's degree. Yet they do, require some type of certification or associates. But, on Fort Worth ISD, only one of every 10 student earns an industry certification, and 4% of graduates earn an associate's degree. So it's odd that we have like this kids with time looking for meaning, looking for power, looking for something to make life worth talking about. And so there's social media clapbacks. There's like the gang stuff. That's also another thing that's often discussed in all of this. And then you have all these jobs that are opening, and it seems like there's this, what's the chicken and an egg, like how do we have all these jobs openings, but we have a bunch of kids with all this time, getting in trouble and leading to irresponsible mistakes and things that 20-year-olds shouldn't have to live with or unable to live with because their life was taken too early. So that's kind of my take. It's probably a little bit of, Fort Worth also, like when you listen to Murder Worth, the documentary by Bob Supreme, we have a federal prison, and they said that Bloods and Crips showed up because they got out of jail and they just got let go, and they didn't have like money to go back to LA. They don't know. They just kind of started their lives here. And so now you want your police and everyone to protect you from, oh no, this, facade of these gangs, but yet they're here because your police didn't have a pathway to support and help people who got out of jail. And so they ended up, doing the same things they were doing in California. So, that's also, I feel like could be a generational microcosm of where we are today. So,
yeah, we care more about investing in the school to prison pipeline than the school to job pipeline. And I think that's an important point. Like, we had the opportunity to show that we wanted to invest in Fort Worth ISD, in our public schools, in the last election. And we chose not to. We chose to thumb our nose at it and say we don't want to invest in that. Then we're asking why these underserved, underinvested in kids aren't becoming their fullest selves and reaching their maximum potential. And it's like, well, you answered your own question by saying that you didn't want to invest in them and show them that they are valuable and they have a bright future outside of a gang culture. And then the second thing is, we have a state legislature that continues to make it easier and easier to have unregistered guns, wield them wherever and whenever you want, and be okay with that. So, like, we want to act like this is a bad thing, but we don't actually want to cut off the sources of it and actually make more groundbreaking progress behind it, because then our prisons wouldn't be profitable anymore.
And then you have like you said, we passed the middle school bond of the upgrade in the middle schools, but we didn't pass the auditoriums, we didn't pass the arts, we didn't pass any of the things that
the
could
gyms,
keep kids,
the playing fields,
keeps kids out of trouble,
Yeah.
right? Or keeps kids focused on some organized meaning that I often think is lost today, right? I'd be curious to know how many kids, have like how many kids still go to after school or like the YMCA, right?
Mm.
Like I kind of believe like one of the biggest challenges is parents have gotten more fearful of their kids, so now their kids are like stuck at home all the time. The pandemic, right? They're also stuck at home, but then they're not allowed to go outside because they have a curfew, but then they might not have a curfew on their phone. So a lot of engagement, and you even see it with the gang stories. They say the turf is social media. It's not even walking outside and being on the wrong block. It's like, clapping on the wrong Instagram profile.
Yeah.
So what I also think was happening is like before the internet, you had things like the YMCA, which was like, it wasn't a part of the school, but it was a part of the community, and it was funded. And then kids would leave high school and then they would walk to the youth center, and it kind of created agency where parents felt that it was a trusted enough place. School felt like it was a trusted enough space. So now these kids have freedom to build agency, build community, have a spot. But today kids don't have a digital YMCA. There's no, and that digital YMCA today is video games. That is, Snapchat. That is Roblox. And so these kids are not in an environment that's free, but then also safe and supported by their school and their parents. Say, yes, I believe in this YMCA. So like, I bet, I don't know, are today's YMCAs and stuff still rocking and still being utilized? I don't know that data, but to me, it seems like there's that digital divide as well, where there was so much physical support around kids when they were in school, where now, since more kids are digital, there's not that digital support.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, moving into our next small story, we've talked about the issues with Tarrant County jails a lot and their gross mismanagement by Sheriff Bill Wayburn. This week there was a protest held outside of the Tarrant County Commissioner's Court for those leaders to hear demands for jail reforms. Commissioner Roy Brooks told the crowd at a public meeting, "These issues cry out to be addressed. We will address them." I mean, we had the opportunity to elect somebody other than Bill Wayburn, and again, we, fumbled the ball on that one. But the rally was in response to Fort Worth Star-Telegram reporting about deaths in the jail, allegations of procedural missteps, and the case of 38-year-old Kelly Maston, who has near daily seizures that require medication and can render her unable to communicate. Essentially, a family member called 911 over a little welfare outburst that Maston had. Essentially, she bit her mom during one of her outbursts. Her mom assumed that she would get taken to the hospital for the medical care that she needed. Instead, they took her to the jail. 10 days later, she was covered with large bruises and comatose. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, this is why police and jail mistrust exists so heavily in the U.S., especially our area. But this was gross, and United Fort Worth and a couple other organizations gathered people outside the commissioner's court to rally against this continuing to be allowed to happen.
Yeah. I really don't have much to say on this. I mean, we're about to get into voting and how, we continue to fund the powers of the police in Fort Worth. I'd be curious to know cities that fund police are also the ones with maybe not as much economic growth. That's Baltimore, Detroit. I'd be curious if that's just, that assumption. But Austin and San Francisco are reducing, places that are having economic success. So I don't know. There's a lot of around, like, because this is so sad. Can you imagine being a parent? You're like, now you feel guilty that you did this. And why? Why the jail,
Yeah.
Because you can profitize. Brought the word back.
Yeah.
We put it in the title, and I realized it wasn't a real word after an hour and a half of saying it.
I'm just like, can we please stop electing Bill Wayburn? Like, please.
Based off of this election, man, of the 8.3 whatever percent of people who voted,
Yeah.
Wayburn is the type of person they want.
Yeah.
And
Well, speaking of election results, let's get into our big story, which is going to be two parts. That's this past election results, and then also looking forward to the May 24th primary runoffs and what's on the ballot on both the Republican and Democratic side. First, we said goodbye to our good friend Carrie Careless Moon this week, and that is because...
that should have been a short story. Man, I forgot. Yeah. We could have.
People are probably thinking you saved it for your win.
Yeah, I forgot all about it. Yeah.
District 4 elected Alan Blaylock over Tara Wilson. Honestly, very close to having to go to a runoff. Blaylock got around 53% of the vote, 2,600 out of 5,100 votes. Tara Wilson came in second with 1,500. Alan is Carrie Moon without a DWI, which I would say is a step in the right direction.
Yep.
But now, we almost have an entirely brand new city council versus a couple years ago, which is pretty crazy. But Alan is stepping in basically immediately. This past meeting was Carrie's last.
Yeah, I remember that. And I wonder if what age Alan is. Carrie was really young. I know the councils have gotten super young, so I wonder I don't know who this person is. I'm looking him up.
And shout out to Tara for, grinding again through another election after doing it last year, coming up just short to an opponent that was funded much more significantly than she was. And
that goes back to your whole Republicans having a strategy for local elections. How does Tarrant County Democrats or the state not figure this out?
Yeah, when you've got the I forget the name of the organization. It's like Texans for a Better Texas. I don't know if you could think of like the most generic Republican name for an organization. It's that. Gave Alan $10,000, which is more than Tara fundraised completely.
Wow.
That is a good point, that there's definitely more direction behind it on the local level. And then moving into the bonds, all 5 bonds passed. We were most significantly surprised by the fact that giving police and firefighters that funding was the most supported of the bonds.
Yeah. What did you have there? You had Proposition D, 74% to 26%.
Mm-hmm.
So
people love giving cops money.
do you want to go through those really quick? And what obviously most people probably on our pod knows what the props are, but
yeah. So Prop A was for,
and that was probably not fair. Actually, you know what? I don't think so. So yeah, let's go through them. Remind them what they were. At least the top 4.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then we could dissect those. Or let's do the top to F, because that's where we hit pay.
Yes.
So let's do that one.
So Prop A was the $370 million for roads. Prop B was $124 million for Parks and Rec improvements. Prop C was 12 million for public library improvements. Prop D was 40 million for police and fire safety improvements. And Prop E was 15 million for acquisition, site prep, and accessibility enhancements for open space improvements in the city. And then Prop F was raising city council and mayoral pay, which is the first one that did not pass in this election, although it was really close. We were pretty surprised by how close it was.
Oh yeah, no, I was blown away.
Big improvement over when they brought this up in 2016. I don't know when the next time they're allowed to bring this up is, but I imagine if they would have had the ability to put more effort behind getting the message out about it, they could have gotten this passed because, I mean, 1,300 votes is the difference between for and against on this one.
Yeah, you had how does that work? Like, when can they try again?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Yep. If anybody knows the answer to that, we would love to hear it. But again, we're obviously for our city council and mayor getting paid a living wage, and investing in local government that can actually put effort behind the needs of the city versus one that is treated like a small suburban town.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the jail, the prison stuff is just mind blowing to me. You know, it's I know I think of an average, like if I think of like an average person who is not affiliated, who keeps up with the news, who doesn't, but then do they vote? I don't even know if that's if they vote. It's just age and conservatism and people. Is it that 75% of people who vote Republican or more conservative? Like, of our 8%, what's the makeup of their party affiliation? Yeah. I'm just curious of what it is, because I can totally see someone who's centered, who just kind of show up to the polls and was like, oh yeah, cops like protecting things. That's good. Like, yeah, let's.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how people over secure their home.
Mm-hmm.
And then they walk into the mindset of securing, our city that way. So they're like, keep it on coming. There's no such thing as not enough protection.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah. Like, that's how do you feel about I felt like your roads, people need the roads. That didn't have a decrease. I mean, I don't know, actually. You know what I think about that? 32% is still high of people saying no to roads.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
high.
significant.
Yeah, I think that's one of every 3 people are a little bit more progressive about these roads.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many of that is more like conservative, fiscally responsive people who just like,
true.
Half of the people who say that, they're in debt anyways and in their own lives, and they're trying to make everyone else fiscally responsible, But, yeah. So, and then Proposition B, 38%.
38% voting against public parks and pools.
Yeah. What is that about?
Get your head out of where.
And this is a city vote. We can't blame it on Tarrant. Like, you can't blame it on, right? I can't blame it on.
You can't blame it on Grapevine and Colleyville.
Who got all the nice stuff. They're like, oh yeah, we don't need this stuff. That is crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe that like 9,400 that voted against the roads, maybe 5,000 of that just, voted straight down against all of these props, all of this spending money. I don't know.
You know how angry somebody got to be to go just vote in there and just be like, but they probably voted yes to police.
Yeah. They switched just for cops. Yeah.
That is literally makes no sense.
Yeah. The parks and libraries were, split pretty evenly within like a couple hundred votes. So yeah, I mean, these same people voting against parks are also voting against libraries. It's like, what do you want to exist? I don't know. I mean, we probably have a bunch of libertarians here who are anti-government existing, so maybe that's a number of them coming in and voting against that. But I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah, that is crazy. The park one is.
We live in a
wild.
society. You live in the 13th biggest city in the U.S. If you don't want a local government to invest in the city, go to some unincorporated place out in the middle of nowhere and do your thing.
Yeah, yeah. The cop thing just blows my mind because we already give a ton of money to them, and I also just think it's mind blowing how powerful police associations are and what they get away with. Right, like you're seeing a fight against our nation's public schools because public schools and educators and colleges are often progressive. Like it ends up being the more you go to school, the more you become progressive. And so the teacher association and public schools are oftentimes, more progressive than their community.
And we even skipped over so far the 2 Texas state amendments which both overwhelmingly passed. And the second one of those increases the homestead exemption that goes towards public education, which means that less of your property tax less of the value of your property can be taxed for public school funding.
And those were very confusingly written.
Yes.
There should be like a jail to whoever writes these. I don't know who's like I will fund police budget for whoever writes these things, amendments, and then they go to jail if I can't say. Me and Monica, my wife's a dentist. I'm over here, not smart, but I read, and I'm like, I cannot. What the heck does that say?
How many double negatives can you use in one sentence?
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I actually think I voted yes for both of those things. It's wild.
It doesn't really matter because they pass like 80%.
Yeah.
But it's great. We are actively defunding public schools.
Yeah.
And there's no conversation around that. But if you say defund police, you get roasted on a skewer as wanting everybody in your community murdered.
Yeah, and I just think about going back to like the educator association world. It's like if teachers and education associations acted anyway like police associations, there would be an all-out strike against classrooms and public schools and bringing kids together who are different. And you're seeing that happening now with private schools and charter schools and Abbott trying to use funding to, now parents to use that to go to those things. But jails are able to do that like nonstop. Like they're able to bully and back all these different politicians and tweet about it. And it's not like I can go to like a charter prison, because all y'all are, clearly don't believe in the ideologies I would want if I got arrested or if someone who in our community got arrested. If you're able to defund our public schools, how can I defund our public prison? Because if educators are more progressive and police are more conservative, y'all are equally maybe the same on that, but yet you just continue to get support. And this side over here, because obviously schools have choice in the sense of parents can go to homeschool, parents have this, but our prisoners have to go to your Wayburn Academy and get, prophetized and treated as
beaten.
Yeah. Villains.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's mind blowing.
And
always know there is more black people in prison. Well, it's equal to white people in prison, but there's only 13% of America's population is black. All right. So think about that, people, right? This there's a real problem here. This is not about hating cops. Like that is huge, right? That's sad that 30+% of your people in federal prison as black, but they're only 13% of, of our population. That is sad. That should be one of the most embarrassing things we think about as a country right now, how sad that is. And yet you defund public schools because they're not giving you, quote, the results. Well, why is Fort Worth still murder worth? Why are we number 3 in homicides in the country, but they don't get defunded?
We're all over the place.
Yeah. We're not saying the same thing that we say for other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, just replicate your thesis. If you're going to use that thesis for public schools, then you got to use it for police.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting you results and you're fighting against it. Okay, then do the same thing with police.
Yeah.
You don't like politics and education? Okay, do the same thing for police.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. That's the frustrating thing about police stuff.
Other than the council pay, there were 2 other props that did not pass. Both of them were around government transparency. I'm kind of proud that neither of these passed. The first was Prop H, which would remove the ability for certain city appointees and employees having the option to request a city council public hearing regarding their removal. I think that's pretty fair if we're talking the realm of government transparency, that if certain levels of employees are fired, that they have the ability to ask why and present that publicly, especially if they are publicly elected. And then the other one, which just got destroyed. Like, I can't believe that they even propose this. And voters agreed. Prop O, which would delete. Okay, this one is written confusingly because it's written like in reverse of most of the other ones with like the negative at the end. But Prop O would have removed public service corporations having to file an annual report. I'm like, why would you want that? Why would you not want public service corporations to be filing annual reports? But and voters agreed, like 67% said no. So
the city needs to get the state writers, make it more confusing. Be like, report written but not printed, uploaded but digital, do now thou report. Yes or no? Wow, sounds like you're doing a lot of work. No.
yeah.
Because that's the other thing why the other agitating things about the state tax exemption ones is like, the Republicans organize and say, hey, everyone, if you're trying to figure out how to vote for this is how you vote for it. So they go and they don't even read it. But for some reason, like, none of us get mass messaged on the other side saying, hey, don't even read it. Just put yes or no.
Yeah.
Just put no.
Well, and okay, that's another thing that I think is very stupid about Texas elections is that you're not allowed to be on your phone in the voter booth, which, like, what are you going to do? Like, this is your ballots are public information. Like, what are you going to take a picture of it? Yeah, everybody can see what it is. Like, why can you not walk in with a note on your phone, on your notes app that has written down all of your, like, what you're planning to vote for? I'm sure people do, but Brooke got yelled at for being on her phone in the voting area.
I was on the A1 podcast notes. I was like, all right.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how well they're paying attention. If you're the first person they've seen that day or not.
Yeah. Or maybe they're just experienced vet. Those old ladies are experienced vets. Like, it really don't matter. You just gonna just get your butt out of here. We got no hope in this bad boy. Cause they actually they like clap for you when you go, and
I know they're really sweet.
They're the best.
They always remember our kid.
Yeah, they're the best.
And then we had 2 Fort Worth ISD elections. One of them is going to a runoff. That's District 4, Dr. Brian Dixon and Wallace Bridges. Dr. Dixon got 47.46% of the vote. Mr. Bridges got 37.1. I mean, I think Dr. Dixon was within maybe like 100 votes of not having to go to a runoff, but they'll go to a runoff that'll be next month. And then on the other side of town, District 1 elected Dr. Camille Rodriguez over police officer Aaron Garcia to fill the north side seat. Dr. Rodriguez was actually an ISD trustee from 2004 to 2008. So she's coming out of retirement and will be on there to help elect a new superintendent. So, I mean, seems like the thing to come out of retirement to do.
Yeah. We need the experience.
So that was this election. And I don't think that anything necessarily went not according to how you would expect. Like, there's nothing crazy. I think the biggest surprise for me was how close the city council pay was.
Yep. That one, and probably also how I don't know what the data is on the voting, but I would imagine that 30-something%, like what was it before?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like are we moving more into the public transit, public transportation narrative or not?
Yeah.
You know, that would be interesting. Like, do they feel like this is a win?
Yeah.
Like, we're getting there, you know?
Yeah. And my last thing on this election was less than 29,000 people voted in Fort Worth with a
Crazy
voting population over 500,000, like sub 10%, closer to 5%. And after the election, Mayor Matty Parker gets on Twitter and says, you know, thanks to the voters for X, Y, and Z. I'm like, no, your first response should be or should include, hey, we just had this election. Only 5% of people voted. What do I need to do to help better engage you all to come out and vote again next time? Like, this should not be it shouldn't be a celebration of thanks for what you voted for. It should be, hey, if you didn't vote or if you didn't know about this election, how do I better engage you?
Yeah.
Because resting our laurels on acting like 5% of the city should dictate what goes on is
8.6% across Tarrant. Man, that is, I mean, like, it is so crazy. Like, I don't know who listens to this. I really don't. But if you didn't vote, just realize, like, it's okay. We got another one coming up. We about to talk about it. But this could be the most important. Like, when people say voting doesn't matter or, you know, it takes too much time, like, the power, right? You think, oh, this big city can't be moved. You're only 29,000 people are voting. All right? That's less people who show up to the Coldplay concert by a lot.
Yeah.
All right? That's like half the venue. All right? So it's like when you realize you can be in that venue, all right, and see a beautiful Fort Worth that plays the image that you want it to have. Let's go vote, people. What do we got coming up?
So we have runoffs for the primaries. So we voted for the primaries back in, I think, early March. Time is all running together, and there's some runoffs on both the Democratic or the Republican side. You can choose which one you want to vote for. Only vote for one. I'll start with the Democratic primary sample ballot, and a lot of these are names that if you voted before you recognize because you saw them. We talked about them. And there's 4 positions on the Democratic side in a runoff. Lieutenant Governor, which is between Mike Collier and Michelle Beckley. Attorney General, which is between Joe Jaworski and Rochelle Mercedes Garza. Comptroller, which is between Jeanette Dudding and Angel Luis Vega. And Commissioner of the General Land Office, which is between Jay Kleberg and Sandra Grace Martinez. Then on the Republican side, there are 6 positions in a runoff. Attorney General, which is between Ken Paxton and George P. Bush. Please, dear Lord, if we got Ken Paxton out of here, like, that would be a massive win. Commissioner of the General Land Office, which is between Tim Wesley and Don Buckingham. Railroad Commissioner, which is low-key one of the most powerful positions in Texas, between Wayne Christian and Sarah Stogner. Member, State Board of Education, District 13. So some of these might be specific to my address. Catherine Monette and A. Denise Russell. Criminal District Attorney, Tarrant County, Matt Krause and Phil Sorrells, which Matt Krause has a lot of signs around town. And Judge, Criminal County Court number 5, so that one's more specific to us, Mamie Johnson and Brad Clark. So, voting for that, I actually need to look up when early voting starts, but the election ends May 24th, so a couple of weeks, 2 weeks from Tuesday is election day for that. And
you said May 21st?
24th.
24th, okay. Yep.
And then the candidates that win those will go to the November statewide ballot, which everyone will vote on the same ballot for.
Now, are we trying to do a show of how to vote for that one? Like, that's probably something because we should prep for, maybe look at, like, hey.
Yeah, we can maybe talk next week.
Yeah, or maybe have someone on who maybe knows something about it.
Yeah.
A little bit more than we do.
Vote against Ken Paxton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we all just go back there. That's how I know how well the Republicans are organized. I'm getting all their information
mailers,
after I voted for to get Carrie Moon out.
Yeah.
But now this Allen guy, we'll see what happens next. So he seems super involved with his community.
You ready to move into wins and losses?
Let's make it happen.
I'll start with my loss, and that is that if you enjoy social media, especially Instagram, you probably lost your Instagram filters the other day, and that's because Texas enacted a new social media censorship law that really benefits right-wing media and spam emails. We're kind of in a one-upsmanship game right now of what state can enact as far-right policy as possible. Texas, in direct competition with Florida, enacted its social media censorship bill, SB 7072, which the pieces of it are blatantly unconstitutional. That was kind of the rub around it when it was first came out was, yeah, like they're going to enact this, but like there's no way it's actually going to take effect. But a federal district court enjoined it, which means that it is, and it has now gone into our law. So the law has 4 major provisions, quote unquote, transparency requirements that include a long list of mandatory disclosures and statistics about editorial operations, digital due process obligations that require services to provide users with notice and an explanation when the services take action, as well as a mechanism to appeal the action, a ban on email service providers blocking spam, coupled with a private right of action and statutory damages. So apparently all our spam is going to start blowing up. And removal of internet services editorial discretion. So essentially, we have allowed our government to control the operations of private social media companies, which sounds a lot to me like authoritarianism and communism. Very interesting that our Republican small government elected officials would be the ones enacting this, but maybe they...
But what's the... I guess I missed it. What's the problem with filters?
Basically, they...
Whatever the problem is with filters, it's priority 1,546 in Texas, all right?
Yeah.
If you have any politician who spent an oomph amount of time on eliminating your filters on your social media, they no longer need to be a politician for you in Texas. All right? Now, this takes you to my loss. All right? Here's what they need to worry about. Here's what you need to worry about is in Tarrant County, I'm going to talk about This is a story by, and it's an intro story. I have so many questions around it. Jess Harden on the Star Telegram, info story about how your home value has skyrocketed and paying taxes, but Texas businesses have gotten a break. Let me just get you to the part that had the craziest statistic here. So Walmart's 37 Tarrant County stores that have been open at least 5 years decreased in value on average between 2017 and 2021. We had a pandemic where all we could do is buy groceries. All right. According to a Star Telegram analysis of the Tarrant Appraisal District records, the market value of the company's commercial property in the country fell from $294 million to $287 million, a decrease of 2.5% overall. In the same time period, your median home price in Tarrant County increased by 51%, according to the data from Greater Fort Worth Association of Realtors. So my loss goes with, we arguing about the wrong filters. Y'all all got filters on your eyes about capitalism. EJ's pro-capitalism. EJ's runs a business. I'm trying to do some stuff. This is crazy. This is why we argue about the other problems, though, in capitalism. And same with police. We got to change what filters we're trying to eliminate. Come on.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about how everybody's complaining about Texas property taxes, and you just got these major businesses skirting by. That's insane.
The state loses $26 billion of taxable property each year as a result of the tax code amendment in 1997.
I want to say, like, what if we put that into public school funding? But I think we all know it would just go into funding cops. So
because they need more stuff, so they can start protecting the metaverse.
What's your win?
My win is that Goldie's. I mean, one number one barbecue joint was on CNN. I think Bud was on CNN, right? I forget there was a correspondent as well. I thought I saw Bud maybe that was my local news as well. But anyways, Goldie's was CNN highlighted. I think it's cool to keep the momentum of Fort Worth being in the national news. We went so the highlight for me is really like, I don't know much of Goldie's, is that just Fort Worth is in national news is the win. You had the blockchain, the crypto stuff with the mayor, then you had the art stuff, and now you got Goldie's. I mean, you're looking at 3 weeks in a row Fort Worth is being talked about. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's the win there. Have you had Goldie's?
I haven't. I have a friend that went, showed up at like 7 a.m. to get in line, and there was already a line. And so that discouraged me from going.
Yeah. And now it's going to be way too late now.
Sounds awesome. Sounds amazing. I would love to try it, but it seems like if you want it, you got to put in the effort to go get it.
Yeah. Oh no, this was the Eat Beat podcast talking barbecue. That's
Gotcha.
above the story. So I was like, I wonder if he got in to talk about it. Like they interviewed him or something. I did not see the clip, but super cool to have Goldie's. Oh, I'm looking at some pictures. It does look great. I know the Funky Panther people have really talked about it and made it a point to get there. So find their podcast if you want to learn more about Goldie's. All right. Cool. What's your win?
My win, the World Finals Rodeo is this weekend.
Come on,
it just started this past weekend. And, we obviously hate on the emphasis put behind cowboy culture, but
the emphasis.
Fort Worth, and Arlington hosted this event during the pandemic when it couldn't be in Vegas, and now they have lured it out of Vegas. That's a massive thing. I'm hopeful that the patrons might be a little bit more respectful of the city this time than they were last time. But overall, a really huge event that is now coming to Fort Worth and Dickies Arena every year. Got to pay those parking fees. Maybe they can subsidize Fort Worth ISD not having to. But I think it's a cool thing that is here now, and yeah, I probably won't go, but if that's your thing, I'm sure it's super exciting.
Yeah, for sure. It is a important, iconic piece to Texas, and we should be proud of our Texas culture.
I mean, it is great. All of the people that have done the work to take that event that had been in Vegas forever and get them to come earlier, like I think 2025, 2026 is what they were originally looking at, but to convince them to move it here before then, like that's a massive feat. And so like props to the Sports Commission and Visit Fort Worth and everyone behind that has made that happen. Like I can only imagine the grind that went into all of that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think, we definitely have a lot of people who grind in Fort Worth, and that's cool to see them get big success by doing so.
Yeah.
And bringing this here is awesome. So I'm surprised you didn't talk about Harrison being in Sundance Square, the actor.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be your win.
Harrison Ford's apparently hanging out in Fort Worth right now.
Yep.
Looking old.
Yep.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
I was walking around Holocron yesterday. That would have been kind of crazy. I would have probably lost my mind if I was walking around a Star Wars memorabilia shop and Harrison Ford walked in.
That would be pretty iconic. Then you have to buy something, have them sign it, and now you have something really
and
special.
then sell it back to them immediately.
There you go. Look at that. Look at this prophetizer over here. He's a phony. We busted him. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for listening to the 817 podcast.
We'll see you next week.
Be good.
Follow us like